3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you're all set, Veronica?
All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the March 26th meeting of the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee. It is 3:20 p.m. We are beginning late and really appreciate everyone's patience who has been waiting for us to start. I think we'll skip past introductions, speed through welcome. Are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to minutes approval. Could I have a mover for the minutes of our February 26th meeting? Moved by Rachel, seconded by Annie. Comments, anything about the minutes? All right, let's have a vote. We will do a roll call vote, and I'll start on the screen and then come into person, and I'll try to keep the same order. Annie?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Lillian?
Yes.
Rachel?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's unanimous. Thank you. And next up, well, all that's up is a bunch of discussions and updates. The first thing is onboarding resources. And Rachel, do you want to take this?
Sure. So I just started throwing together some resources that I knew would be helpful to new members of WDIC. It was in the agenda packet on page 7. And I don't think I need to go bullet by bullet to what's there, but check that out. There are links to specific meetings that might be important. And I tried to mark the times that might be pertinent. And that's what I started with, and I'm sure I'll come up with more. If anybody has ideas, feel free to send them to me so I can add them.
I would like to note that our system, when we email out links for agendas or items like that, they don't come across as accessible.
Okay.
So from moving forward, if you're providing links, they have to be fully written out, and it would be a copy and paste situation.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. I was thinking, this looks slightly different than it did when I saw the digital version. What thoughts do people have about these resources? I can say briefly, though, this wouldn't be permanent. Name and contact info for, I think, the committee chair, vice chair, and clerk would also be good. Yeah. Anyone else?
I think it's a good starting point.
Yeah. Awesome. So do I. And I think this is kind of all the core things at the moment.
And there's a lot of content contained in those resources that someone brand new, depending on their level of familiarity, that's going to be a lot to digest, and I'm sure will prompt additional questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And as speaking to myself too, some of this stuff has been updated since we joined WDIC. This is, I think, true for everyone except John and Lillian. So, like, I have not fully explored the new equity and diversity corner of the website aspects. It's not just one page. I need to do that. So I recommend that to everyone. I'm so sorry. Clerk of the Legislature, Katrina McCloy is here, which means she has something important to share, I'm sure.
I'm just going to suggest if you do have an onboarding process to include it in the bylaws, that once they've been appointed, that they're expected to review this. And this should be something that should be enforced by the committee itself. Staff in the office, we really don't do onboarding we do just basics with the ethics, the book of ethics, and just notification of appointment. And I can't think of the reappointment process when their terms expire. We do like those basic steps for advisory boards, but we don't do onboarding specific for each board, okay?
Yes, thank you. And yes, to be clear, I don't think we're not trying to make more work for you, the clerks, or expecting you to do any onboarding type thing that is WDIC specific, as opposed to universal advisory board, like sign your oath card thing.
I do think it's important to include something, your onboarding process in your bylaws once we get to that point, so.
Thank you, good note. Anything else on onboarding for now?
I have some thoughts. I always think about lens development when I think about onboarding. And Jedi read a book called Me and White Supremacy by Layla F. Saad. And it really is a journey, right? Like an internal journey about the historical context around diversity, equity, and inclusion, anti-racism, social justice, the list goes on. So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for us to add some sort of reading and discussion option for onboarding. Maybe the list of articles that were shared during our reading and discussion group in Jedi, or maybe the book, or maybe, just something that, members could have an opportunity to do some internal reflection from month to month. So when they come into this space, it's a refreshed lens.
Annie.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to that. I wonder if it would be what you think, Charlene or other folks, about if we were doing that to actually be able to give them a book, like maybe have a couple of books to choose from so they could have a physical book to read.
So there are I started to build a library in the E&D space, which is my office right now. So there are some hard copies of The Sum of Us and I hate when I forget the name of a book. Can I get back to you on that so that I don't lie about which ones we have? I'll send to the clerks the list of options that we have for folks, and we have multiple copies, so you can take one and use it at your leisure. I'll get that to you as soon as I get back to the office, Annie.
Thank you. I'm sure
we also have part of the equity and diversity budget that can accommodate that.
Awesome. I'm sure the community has copies of My Grandmother's Hands floating around at this point. Charlene, thank you. I love that idea. But if I could shift it, I wonder if a WDIC reading and discussion thing could be something that the committee does, at least to start, the committee does together, because none of us, well, I know Rachel and maybe others here did the Jedi reading group, but we could all, I'm sure, use development of our lenses as well, or it can't speak, or at least connection with the other WDIC members around developing an equity lens and doing internal work and applying to this work. So I wonder if we could do a reading and discussion thing that's not an onboarding thing, but just a part of this committee thing once and go from there. The other thing I'm thinking is because people come onto the committee like one at a time, and sometimes two at a time, but not necessarily like together with others. And I'm just thinking, because you mentioned discussion as part of this. Rachel.
Yeah, I don't have a concern about that. I have a concern about time in the meetings and like getting work done while discussing these books. It might be something that we, like some people in the committee or all people on the committee, agree to read a book together, but maybe we could do something where we have like a shared document where we can share our thoughts about certain sections kind of offline, but then we can all see them and have a little bit of a discussion without being in a meeting. And that way we can develop our lens, but not take up time in meetings.
Oh, yeah, I don't think the reading discussion should be in the public meetings, especially if we're doing anything even like a third as personal as me and white supremacy, which I've worked through several years ago with a different group. Got one of my best friends out of it, which is not the point, just a perk. Yeah, that's not like public recorded meeting content, even if it is group engaging together with just each other content. Charlene.
The discussion pieces are built into the book. So when you say reading and discussion in the context of this, like as a resource for onboarding, it's kind of like, take this book and do your part. So when you show up in WDIC, you know, you're showing up with a refreshed lens and try to do so from month to month so that you're aware of what's necessary to move this work forward. So we're kind of like disrupting the perpetuation of the same conversation over and over again, or needing to over explain, or, you know, getting stuck in the hamster wheel, I guess is what I was talking about. Not that this group would engage in a reading or discussion, but there should be some sort of reading materials outside of like the governmental processes that each member could perhaps engage in on their own time that would benefit the space.
Charlene, do you want to recommend us some particular materials?
I can do that.
Thank you. Or if anyone else does, please do. You don't want to leave it to just me. Other thoughts on this topic? I have wheels turning in my head, but I'll keep it to myself until it's words. Okay. Seeing none, let's move on. The next item in the, I guess, in the agenda and agenda packet is really just an informational item clarifying the distinction between a resolution and a proclamation, and clarifying a distinction between the resolution and the proclamation, and it explains how a proclamation has to be filed and submitted to be presented at a full legislature meeting. The proclamation can come from anyone and just go straight on the full legislature agenda with informal approval from the legislators. It doesn't have like a path through the committee process. Resolutions have a path through the committee process, individual legislators can also, there's other ways to get the resolution onto an agenda at a meeting, but the typical path, and in particular for anything coming out of this committee, the path would be that we vote and approve a resolution here, and then it the approved resolution document goes onto an agenda at the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee. That committee discusses, could amend, votes, and if a majority vote yes on it to pass it out of committee, then it goes to the full legislature and is on the agenda there. And same deal.
Can I just add one
Yes.
thing? Committees recommend to the legislature, they don't adopt. The legislature does the adoption. So you'll see at the whereas, or the resolve statements in the bottom that on recommendation of such and such a committee, that the committee just recommends to the legislatures.
Right, thank you. I don't remember what I said, but apologies if I said it wrong. Yeah.
Most people say that the committee adopts, but I just wanted to clarify that they do the recommendation.
Yeah, or people will say, look, the committee passed,
Yeah.
oh, the resolution passed a committee, but it's, yeah, the vote is to recommend or to, I know, I think of it as to like move it on from the committee to the next step, which might be another committee, might be the full legislature. I guess, does anyone have questions about resolutions or proclamations or the distinction between them? Historically, one thing this committee has often done is prepare and recommend proclamations for various heritage months. That's kind of fallen by the wayside recently, like in this committee specifically. But it's a thing that I think is good to do, and that various heritage months make up like a good chunk of the proclamations that the legislature passes, but there's plenty of other things as well. Recognition days, sometimes recognizing specific people and whatnot. Anything more on this item? Let us carry on.
Merely that I think that in our current national political climate, our continued commitment to recognizing heritage is, I think, an important position for us to take.
Thank you. Noted. If nothing else on this at the moment, moving on to reports and updates. First, we've got our Chief Equity and Diversity Officer, Charlene Holmes. Do you have anything additional?
The only thing that I have is that GARE, the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, came to Ithaca. Visit Ithaca was an amazing partner who was able to share some sites that they might be able to hold their local meeting at, which will be held on October 20th to the 22nd. Southside was involved, GIAC was involved. A lot of community members showed up to the meet and greet. We had a meet and greet internally with the county. It was over a span of 2 days, and I just want to thank everyone for making it a success. They shared with us that it was one of their favorite visits, and they went from Boulder, Colorado to Ithaca, New York, and then out to Montgomery, Alabama. So just to hear that Ithaca in the middle of that was one of their favorite spaces, I just want to shout out to everyone who was a part of making it a great experience for them. And, you know, we're bringing this national organization here to do some race equity work, and I'm really excited. And just wanted to share that, and shout out to Rachel for also being very, very intimately involved in that, and also sharing in her time so that our representatives from GARE had a great time here in Ithaca. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Charlene, and thank you, Rachel. I'm super excited that GARE is going to be coming here for a regional meeting. And thanks for doing the legwork toward that happening, and for the opportunity to meet the representatives when they were here. Annie.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. I'm sorry I missed the meet and greet. Appreciate you showing them around. Do we have dates? I think it's October. Do we have certain dates? I think I saw they're still looking at venues and things like that.
October 20th to the 22nd will be the local meeting. There will be 2 full days, 1 day of cultural events. So we're in discussion about local events here in local cultural opportunities here in Ithaca and Tompkins County. And then the second day will be a full day of discussion, keynote sessions, breakouts. And then the third day, it will be a half day with an expo and an opportunity to enfranchise businesses and close out with discussion and next steps. So it'll be over a 3-day period, October 20th to the 22nd.
And I wonder if it would be helpful to talk about what opportunities there are for our committee members and the staff at the county and other people, as whenever you have information about opportunities for people to be able to attend.
Yes, absolutely. We have a large steering committee.
Great.
Rachel's a part of it. There are a lot of cooks in the kitchen right now. We are hashing that out. We had a committee meeting yesterday, and we will have more information about signing up. There will be a virtual GARE 101 session prior to the local meeting to get folks acclimated to the language and the ways in which we discuss the work, so that people are not walking into the walking into the local meeting not necessarily knowing what's happening. So there's a pre-meeting and then the local meeting, and all of that information will be shared with individuals who will be interested in attending later on this year. So we're anticipating maybe in the next 2.5 months, we'll have more information around that. And it'll be hashed out where we can share it with those who would be interested in being a part of it. And WDIC will be one of the first places we share.
Great. I'm really excited about it. Thanks, Charlene.
Yes, thank you.
Anything else for Charlene?
At this time, no.
Yeah. Any questions or things for Charlene? Seeing none, moving on to Team Jedi update. Rachel, back to you.
Yeah, so our updates for Jedi are that we continue to work on our marketing campaign. We've got 2 interviews scheduled to shoot in the next 2 weeks. I think we're working toward, we've got our videos for part 1, part 2. I think we're working on part 3 now. So that work is continuing. Our last meeting was mostly spent discussing training opportunities for county staff. No decisions have been made. We're just talking about various options for how we can make that happen and make that accessible to employees. That's really all I have for Jedi updates today.
Awesome, thank you. Questions or comments for Rachel and Jedi? I have a question. Oh, nope, Charlene, go ahead.
I do have one more update since we're talking about Jedi. We do have a pending diversity, equity, and inclusion updated policy that's in the queue to be reviewed and go through the legislative process. I recently had a conversation with our administrative staff about where we are in that, and we will be moving forward. So you all should be seeing that policy within the next month or so. Fingers crossed. So just wanting to keep you abreast of that, especially the legislators who are in the room. I know you guys sit on respective committees that might be in addition to the process. So I just want to keep you abreast of that is coming your way.
Thank you.
And the updated policy is a direct reflection of the institutionalizing equity report. So we wanted to make sure that it was all aligned. So your lens in that as you read the new updated policy will be great.
When you say we'll be seeing it soon, what is the next, I guess the next public meeting step that the policy is going to?
Okay. GEO is usually the next one. The next public space will be GEO, and I am not sure if it's going to go through BCP. It might. I'll have more information about that as we get closer to submission of those policies to the respective committees. But we will also share it with WDIC most likely simultaneously as we do with GEO. But as you know, GEO comes before WDIC in the month. So just wanted to give you a heads up.
Right, okay. Thank you. And welcome, Nick. Good to see you.
Hello, thank you. Yeah. Good to see folks.
Yes. Nick Bennett, our last current member of WDIC, has been less present recently due to teaching conflicts, but we're glad you're here now. Not doing real introductions, but we've got two new full members of WDIC since you were last here, John Halichik and Lillian Isaacs, both county staff members and both really wonderful additions.
Excellent. Great to meet you folks.
Nice to meet you too, Nick.
As well.
All right. We were in the middle of the Team Jedi update, heard a few things. I had a question for you, Rachel / Jedi, about the training. Can you elaborate more on what goals you all are holding in mind as you talk about possible training for county staff?
Yeah, so we, where are my notes here? We are really trying to figure out how to reach the most people. And I think one goal we have in mind is to assist departments with any roadblocks they might have with their equity indicators that they've been asked to collect, and just kind of making sure that, you know, like Charlene was talking about earlier with lens development, and so we're looking at, do we want to do something that's a little more specific to certain departments? So we thought about like grouping, these are just ideas floating around, nothing set in stone yet, but grouping departments maybe by the scope of their work, or if there are certain equity indicators that are aligned, or do we do like a whole like 1-day summit for all employees? If we did that, where the heck would we have it to fit enough people? And then also, you know, we talked about how DEI might look a little different by department because of their scope of work. And we talked about how, you know, there's a culture for the organization, but then in some departments there might be a little bit different culture. And so just trying to ensure some kind of alignment in at least the equity portions of our work across departments. So those are the things that we're talking about and discussing and figuring out what our best options are.
Cool, thank you. It's really complex and nuanced and really important, and I appreciate the work Jedi is doing. Any other questions, comments for Team Jedi? Seeing none. Moving on. Oh, right, to technically the chair's report. Well, the only thing I have is these draft committee goals and priorities for 2025, and they're summarized in this document, so I'll just open up the floor for discussions, questions, changes. What thoughts do folks have? And this is packet page 11, if you're looking at the agenda packet.
I think it's a good capture of our previous discussions. And the ideas we had then still seem good to me now.
Great. Anyone else? It can't be perfect, guys.
I have a thought, but I didn't do my homework ahead of time. I am just now reading it. With the award $5,000 allocated to mini grants in the 2025 CEDO budget, is there I wonder, should it say like what that allocation could be used for? Like that line is a little, it seems a little incomplete. I'm wondering what, is it purposely vague, like the mini grants, to be left like a little more flexible, or are there things in mind there that could be included?
There is a scope in mind. I just didn't have it word for word to type here. If Charlene's still here, she can speak to that better than anyone else.
Right now, we're in the process of putting together a committee to outline all of those details, Nick. We don't have them. We met with the county attorney and we met with finance about what our restrictions would be, like what are our boundaries. And the county attorney said, this is public, we kind of get to be as flexible as we like and then run it by our legal team to make sure that we are within all the legal boundaries. But the goal for this particular allotment comes from the over target request from the CEDO budget in 2024 for 2025. And we specifically outlined that we would like to award a mini grant to businesses or nonprofits that are either minority led and or minority serving through this particular conduit. So it could be for an equipment purchase, it could be for a program, it could be for whatever would help to enfranchise that particular space, and move some of their work forward through the application process. Obviously, we would have to outline that very specifically. We would like to use this funding to provide to the community. And the goal is like, he who does much with little will do, he who does much with little will do much with a lot. I don't know. I had it on my tongue yesterday, I promise. But yeah, so we want to make sure that that we're modeling the behavior of like how we want to see funding allotted to businesses and nonprofits that are oftentimes historically ignored through our processes. It's
That's
a mouthful.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlene.
And if you're interested in being a part of the committee, please just share with me, shoot me an email, and that correspondence will go out soon about like how much the time commitment will be, and what our time limit is, and how quickly we would like for the grant to be administered and dispersed.
Thank you. And thank you for the update on the progress of it. And that's a much better description than I would have given. Any other comments, questions, concerns, changes about the goals? I had one follow-up question that I was going to ask regardless, maybe at the end of the meeting, which we're approaching, so I'll pose it now, which is, what would you all like to do specifically at our April meeting?
Wow, April already.
You can mull on that for a moment. You can mull on why are we thinking about April when it's snowing outside?
Yeah, I think one thing I know I'd like to get us to start thinking about are what steps we need to take to prepare for the next climate survey, especially hearing you say April already.
I also think that if we don't get our process rolling for how we're going to solicit nominations and decide upon awards for the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award, we won't get to it this year. So I really think that we should, since we intend to award it, we should get it rolling.
And I would say, circling back to the climate survey, perhaps a good exercise would be, if between now and the next meeting, to furnish the results of the last two or the two previous climate surveys for comparison. My concern in the climate survey going forward is there have been many repetitive top 5 issues in the two previous climate surveys. And I do have some questions with respect to if the 2016 and 2000, I forget when the second one was done, point to the same
2018, I think.
2018, thank you, Veronica. If they point to the same top 5 metrics that need attention, then are we going to go and engage in a third climate survey that's going to yield yet again the same results, because there's a different conversation that needs to happen if that is indeed the case?
Thank you. So going back, or at least providing everyone with the results of the previous surveys, is something that we can do easily, because I think we've looked at that before in this, I mean, before you were on this committee, John.
Sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I have the 18,
ago,
I don't have the first one.
I can try to find the meeting and share it, that Lisa gave an overview and a presentation just before she left. It wasn't that long ago, and I don't think it would take me that long to find. So I'll try to find that and send it on to everybody. At least it reviewed the 2018 climate survey results.
I just think it's good for context as far as what we're trying to accomplish with the next climate survey.
So with that being said, I would just like to note that if that's something that you would like in the agenda, or if anybody comes up with ideas for the next agenda, that meeting for April is on the 23rd, which means that any submitted items have to be submitted and approved by the end of the day of the 16th. Then the process goes to the chair and the vice chair for approval of their agenda, and then it's distributed on the 24th. So anything you guys need have to be submitted that day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yep. If you can just bear with me one moment, I just want to check something as well.
Sure.
So you said April 23rd, correct?
The 23rd at 3 p.m. is the next WDIC meeting. Yep. That's when it's scheduled for.
All right. I will not be able to attend that meeting. I'll be at the 911 Coordinators Conference in Corning. It's an all-day affair from 9 to 5.
We will miss you, but that sounds important. Thank you for this timely RSVP.
Yep. I knew, I was wondering if it was going to be the 23rd or the 30th, but yeah, unfortunately that's in conflict.
And to the point about submitting agenda items, Jordan, the way one would do this is just email you, right? And you've all received emails from Jordan before.
Probably too many.
Okay, so I've heard a desire to prioritize for the next meeting, preparing for the climate survey or finding out what needs to be done to prepare for the climate survey, and a process for the Leslie McBean Claiborne Strength and Diversity Award. Which I agree with Rob that we need clarity around that if it's going to happen. Other thoughts, or are there things you'd like to see done, whether you're volunteering to help with them or hoping someone else will do it, prior to the next, between now and the next meeting? All right, quiet bunch. I could make something up right now, but I don't have a clearly worded idea that I want to speak on record, but I've got these things noted down. Where are we? Why don't we move on to committee members' reports? Does anyone have anything you'd like to share or report back relevant to the work of WDIC? Going once, twice, no reports. I would like to give us all a homework assignment. I can't assign you homework, but I'm going to try anyway, which is invite one person. Think of a specific person and invite them to join WDIC. And it can be, well, we still have flexible vacancies, so this could be anyone who lives in or works for Tompkins County, community member, staff member, legislator. And hopefully we'll get some takers. And if any two of us invite the same person, that'll be a strong sign for them. All right. Anything else before we adjourn? All right, I'll just call it. We're adjourned. Thank you for the meeting. See you in April and in the emails.